Welcome to another episode of One on One with Miss Lafon. Joining me this week, Canadian guitarist Philip Sayce. He's got a new album called Influence, and he has been compared to Jeff Healey, Stevie Vaughan, Joe Bonamassa, Eric Clapton, and many, many more. Also, he spent a lot of time before getting into the solo stuff as Melissa Etheridge's guitarist. And so we talk about that. We talk about working with John Shanks and all the other projects. He will be on tour this summer. We will see him in Montreal on July 2nd, Quebec City July 3rd, Barrie, Ontario July 7th, Mont Tremblant on July 11th, at the Ottawa Blues Festival on July 12th, and then he heads over to the Fuji Rock Festival in Japan on July 25th. This, of course, episode is brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival, taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau in downtown Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This year featuring performances by Korn, Faith No More, Extreme, Dokken, Warrant, Lita Ford, just a bunch of other great bands. So make sure you check that out. Why don't we just get right into this? Here is my conversation with Philip.
You are one-on-one with Mitch Lafon.
There you go.
Love
great?
Love it. How's it going?
Good,
How's it going,
good, Phil. Is it Phil or Philip? Which do you prefer?
You know, we're hanging out. I'm not too picky at the moment. We're
Okay,
cool.
good. So
Whatever you like, man.
yeah, so we're going to talk about influence and, of course, how Steve helped you land the deal at Warner and all that wonderful stuff. Let me just get started then with, this is not your first album. You've had, many come out, mostly in Europe. What makes this one different? And why is it important for Canada, this one?
Well, it's a really good question. I think first and foremost, there is with this opportunity to release this music in Canada, there's an overwhelming sense of gratitude that I'm feeling to have the opportunity to continue making music. And I think that's what I'd like to say first and foremost. I can't necessarily speak to whether this record is per se like a better record or why this record. I think it's the influence of the record that was recorded in Nashville, primarily in Nashville, a little bit in Toronto as well, a couple of songs. But I do think that it's as with any of the records, whether it's Peace Machine or Influence, I think they were recorded ultimately with trying to capture a snapshot of a moment in time. Mm-hmm. And sort of expressing something emotionally or energetically through the music and the performances on the records. So each one, I think, in a way, but let's just say that Influence is a snapshot of where I was at the time when it was being recorded.
Right.
And ultimately, it's a record of healing. It's an opportunity for me to heal. And so, yeah, I hope that resonates with people when they listen to it.
So how do you get it to the people? In this day and age of downloading and YouTube and all that, how do you get the people to pay attention to a new artist, a reasonably new artist?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's about trying to do what you do as an artist, first and foremost, now more than any time. If you're asking from my perspective, it's important to be authentic in your message. It's important to be authentic in what you're trying to get across. And that doesn't mean that one thing is more valid than another. I think it's just what is, and again, I don't want to speak for somebody else,
right.
But for me, my way of doing that is to be authentic, play what I'm feeling, and try to express what that is that's going on, and hope that will resonate with the listener. Maybe somebody else will go, oh, yeah, I totally get that. Or even if, hey, this isn't my style of music, but man, those guys are giving it, maybe I need to give it a little harder. Maybe I got to go and do things in my life that I love, maybe I need to make more time in my life for, whatever it is that I love to do. And I think if that gets across to someone, that's the main thing. And that's the priority. And if someone sees that, whether it be on YouTube or hears something on Spotify,
right.
If we can get that message across, that possibilities are limitless now of the people that you can reach through social media platforms, streaming services. Music is everywhere.
It really is. Let's go back to the sort of the beginning of your career. A lot of it, I think, you can attribute to John Shanks, the producer, who's worked with, Alanis Morissette, Bon Jovi, Backstreet Boys, Jessica Simpson. I mean, a lot of major artists. He introduced you to Melissa Etheridge. Is that about correct?
That's absolutely correct. Yeah, he did. He, I was spending a lot of time in Los Angeles, right. And he, at the time, I was invited to go and perform with an artist named Uncle Cracker, who he had a huge hit at the time, and a great learning experience. And I was trying out some amplifiers one morning in a guitar store, really loud. And I was kind of say it was a bit like Back to the Future.
Right.
But he came in and he came in and just sort of said, who are you? I was just messing around, I said, I'm Philip, who are you? I'm John. He gave me his card, and a couple weeks later I had lunch with Melissa, and that was that. It was very nice of him to make that introduction.
Yeah, it was very nice. Now, by the time you joined Melissa's band in 2004, she was going through, some serious medical issues with breast cancer and so on and so forth. What kind of situation was it for you coming in? Were there any promises? Did you know if anything was going to get done? Was it dramatic? Let me explain the whole sort of situation that was going on there.
So, yeah, at the time when I came in to work with Melissa, she had not been diagnosed with
the breast cancer yet.
At that time, she was riding high and doing her thing, and obviously very successful. And so, and I've always, like anyone who I think who is into roots music, would certainly have respect for someone like Melissa.
Absolutely.
From hearing her sing. She could sing you the menu at the restaurant. You'd be like, man, that's the best thing I've ever heard. So it was really an opportunity for me to come in as a student and, just listen, watch, and learn. And it turned out that she was a very, very generous mentor as well, and gave me a huge amount of space to grow and learn, and ultimately just to get better. And but I think, when I came in, there was a lot going on. Certainly she had a band that had been with her for years, and so I was kind of the new kid at school, and everyone was very welcoming and very kind. And one of the things that I always remember, I over-prepared, for the rehearsals. So I really practiced all the songs. So when I showed up, we just kind of played them, and I think they had to cut the rehearsals short. We were supposed to maybe have 2 weeks or something. I was so jazzed up and wanted to do a good job that I really overstudied and came in and realized that there was so much else to keep my eye on and keep learning, like trying to learn how to play with a drummer like Kenny Aronoff. So it was a wonderful experience, and she was playing at the time. They recorded actually a DVD, I think about 2 months or 3 months after I first started working with her in New York. In New York City, we did, I think, 4 nights at the Roseland, and they recorded one of those shows, which became a DVD called Lucky Live. And that's really a snapshot of the beginning with Melissa. It was like, okay, this is awesome. And ultimately, she from there was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I don't know if you saw, but she kind of lit up the Grammys that year, and
absolutely
did a lot of really amazing things. Yeah, she's super rad. Yeah,
I mean, she just played the French version of The Voice up here in Montreal about a week ago, so that was always nice to see. What did you learn from that experience? Because here you are coming into a situation with a major artist, somebody who's been established for many, many years, who sort of knows the game. And, I don't want to say that you were a rookie, but coming in sort of fresh, what do you learn? Is there a discipline you learn? Is there songwriting craft that you learn? Just basically, what do you learn in a situation like that?
Yeah, I think, and that is, again, a great question. I think all of that is true.
Right.
I think, when I went in there, I sort of, first of all, was pretty amazed by just how down to earth she was.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get to know someone and you see them on a nightly basis, I guess it would be like being on like a hockey team,
Right.
With someone, and you get to see them play every night, and you get to see how they make a different play every time, and they come up everything roses every time. So I think watching Melissa, watching how she, certainly admiring her craft as a songwriter, her abilities as a performer, she had this incredible, just this knack for, as soon as she walked on stage, she had an entire audience in the palm of her hand, and everybody felt like she was performing to them individually. It's a real gift that she has. And so I just tried to be a sponge, and just watch, listen, and learn. It wasn't about me. Those people were there to see her. So I did the best that I could to support her, but also realize that, hey, it's a great opportunity, and be a student and learn and take that with me.
Yeah, and then in 2009, about 5 years later, you head out and you do Peace Machine. Was that a sort of a nerve-wracking moment, being front and center? As a band musician, you can sort of hide in the shadows, but now you're front and center. How was that transition for you?
Well, it wasn't actually as much of a transition as it may seem. I mean, we're always growing and learning and transitioning. That's my intention anyway. But I think, I'd always been fronting my own thing. And the opportunity to work with Melissa or Uncle Cracker and Jeff Healey as well.
Right.
So like the opportunity to perform with these, spectacular artists, I just saw it as an opportunity for learning, an opportunity for growth, an opportunity to get deeper and get better. And so, I think we haven't touched too much on Jeff, but I think just on the idea
Jeff.
of Jeff was really as good as it gets. And I think in terms of a gifted artist, and I think just trying to stay open in those moments, and like how do they set this play up? How do they work in dynamics on stage? How are they working the audience?
Yeah.
And that was really like
You've been described as being the next Eric Clapton, the next Stevie Ray Vaughan, the next Joe Bonamassa. And of course, the album is called Influence. Are those guys your influences? And, well, let's just start with that. Were you sort of a student of those great artists?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. 100%. Every time I hear something by Clapton or any of the artists that you just mentioned, Joe, Bonamassa, or certainly Hendrix, I mean, there's those kind of guys, there's only one of them, right? I'm not interested in trying to be them, but certainly the music and the intensity and certainly the beauty of what they're putting into this world inspires me and makes me want to dig deeper and get better.
Right.
Yeah.
This album originally the album came out in 2014. We're now 2015. Where are you in the making of the next album?
Yeah. Well, I think it's constantly a work in progress. I'm always trying to get new things down, record new things and come up with an idea every day. If I play guitar for a couple hours a day or sing or whatever, I'm always trying to lay down a new riff and put it into the list of into this world of 50,000 other riffs and hopefully pull one or two of them out and turn them into a song or join them together. So I'm always kind of working on stuff. I would say that there's about 5 or 6 pretty good songs in the can right now that could easily go on a new studio recording. So definitely well on the way toward a new record. I've also got a bunch of live recordings. So yeah, I think just trying to stay creative and see what might be called upon next. But I'm always looking forward to to creating something new.
You've covered songs like "I'd Love to Change the World" on this album, which is a great song, and you do an incredibly great cover of it. For you, what makes a great? Yeah, oh, it really is. There are 3 bands that I've heard covers from of that song: Tesla, L.A. Guns, and yours. And listen, yours is by far the best one. But for you,
Oh, you're so kind.
what makes the best? What makes a great song?
You know, I got to tell you, Mitch, these are all really good, these are all really good questions. I love this interview. For me, what makes a really good song is when I have an emotional connection. I think,
right.
And I don't want to go down like get on a soapbox or anything like this. I think
no, but please
this is what makes the world go round.
Right.
No, but this is what makes the world go round, right? Like different things, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Just to sort of make it very obvious. I think there are so many songs that might make the hair on my arm stand up, and maybe for you, you might be like, yeah, it's cool. It's not really my thing, And I think it's how do we make room for it all, or at least create an opportunity where there's a wider scope to like let more in and be able to say, yeah, maybe I don't like this particular cuisine, but that doesn't mean that it's not valid. And so for me, what makes a really good song is having an emotional connection.
Right.
First and foremost in the song. I mean, anyone can sit down and write a cake mix song. You and I could probably do it right now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And put together the usual suspect type, verse, chorus, bridge, breakdown, chorus, then go out again on the ooh-wee, like you're, and that's great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But for me, I'm always looking for some kind of passion in the performance, which is coming from a human level. Okay. Because it's everyone's got their own fingerprint, right? And that's what I want to hear. I want to hear someone's story. I want to hear even if it's not necessarily in word, I want to feel it.
Yeah, and I've got a couple more questions for you. This is sort of let's call it a blues sort of based album. Is this the one sort of genre that you want to stick to, or would you be open to doing someday the Phil Sayce dance album or the metal album? Are you locked into a genre, or are you more, I want to explore and do whatever feels right at the moment?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of putting music in boxes per se, other than perhaps saying that something is roots music.
Right. And
so like for me, when I consider a certain kind of music, roots music, I guess that is putting it in a box, but I at least try to make it as wide a box as possible. So that could be anything from, say, polka music to roots reggae to, to jazz to psychedelic rock to whatever. Like all this different, for me, that's music that those are all relatives of one another. So I think, try not to necessarily confine myself to any one particular box, but I don't think I'll be able to, I think everything that I'm playing is coming from the roots.
Right.
And roots music. From that originally. So even if it ended up being something that someone might say, oh, that's kind of like dance music, the roots of it would always be coming from the earth, from the heart, and from roots music.
Absolutely. Now, Influence is signed to Warner Canada, and before we spoke a little bit about the impact of social media, and as an independent artist, you can get yourself on YouTube, you can get yourself on Spotify. What does a major label like Warner Music, especially Warner Music Canada, bring to an artist? Is it still important in this day and age to have a major label behind you?
Certainly, yeah. I don't think it's necessarily imperative, but I do think, I don't think it's like, oh, well, if you can't necessarily work with a major label, then you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. I don't think that that's fair to say, but I will say that this experience that I've had, with Warner Music Canada has been an opportunity for renewal, an opportunity to feel a sense of excitement again, an opportunity for deep healing. And I think that the warmth and overall love of music that has been, that I've experienced, in my short time working with Warner Music Canada is like nothing I've ever seen in the industry, even from working with indie labels or other major labels. This is a very, very special group of people, and certainly a music-loving company, which is refreshing. Like I said, it's refreshing. It's it's like I'm trying to find the right words to describe it. It's soul healing, and you know, I understand this is a music business,
right.
but there's a real priority around the love of music at Warner Canada, and I think that's something that is, you know, you can ask, I think, any artist that currently on their roster or previously, and anyone that I've ever met has always said, sort of shared that same feedback, which is a great sign. You know, if only we could find more people that were coming from that place for the love of music first and foremost. And so I'm extremely grateful. And I think the reach that they have is certainly, they can make a great impact, and I'm, you know, certainly seeing that already, and just deeply, deeply grateful.
Yeah, because, you know, a lot of the media has been made over the years that the industry is in a lot of trouble and the labels are on the decline, but I do think that they do offer a lot of infrastructure, a lot of knowledge, and a lot of advice, and it's nice to see an artist like yourself finding a home in, you know, one of Canada's best companies, quite frankly.
Certainly, yeah, I fully agree with that, and I think it comes with a certain amount of responsibility as well, if you will, because this is a tremendous opportunity that I don't take lightly. Mm-hmm. You know, especially with this, again, not to put music in a box or anything, but especially with this roots kind of music. I think that there are so many talented artists out there that are working hard, that are doing this, that are committed to the music first. And so I think if there's an opportunity to widen the scope of, you know, in any way, widen that sort of scope of what we see on a daily basis, which is 99% of the time a specific kind of, you know, I think, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but there's not a lot of room for what we hear other than usual suspects, unless you go off on sort of a safari through YouTube, and you can find some great stuff. But you know, I think that it's really important. I'm taking this opportunity extremely seriously, and my commitment has always been to continue the message of my heroes. So when I hear Stevie Ray Vaughan, when I hear Albert Collins, when I hear Freddie King, when I hear Clapton or Hendrix or, you know, Gary Clark Jr. or Bonamassa for some of the more contemporary players, you know, that stuff turns me on. And my intention has always been to continue that kind of intensity and integrity in the music that I'm making. So, and I hope that inspires others to do what they love in their life.
Yeah, it really does.
But that's making, yeah.
And just wanted to say the album itself is I think it's been described by many as being a masterpiece, and I would have to agree with that. It really is a strong piece of work, and hey, good on you. You know, good for you. It's thank you. It's a good piece of work.
Oh my goodness. Well, listen, Mitch, thank you. That means a lot to me, you know, and I think, like anything, you know, when you create something, you're just in the moment and creating what's in that moment. So to, you know, to receive that kind of feedback, you got to know it means the world to me. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And I missed you when you came to Montreal recently because I had actually had heart surgery in March, but I'm certainly looking forward to the next time you come through. And
wait, I heard about this. I heard about this.
Donald had what's his name? Not what's his name. Sorry, I mean Donald Robbins had an interview booked, and he called basically like the day after I had come home from the hospital. And I was just like, I can't. I couldn't do it. So I do apologize for that, and I definitely got to make sure. No, Al, you know, listen, I never.
Are you kidding?
Well, I don't like to make excuses. I don't like blowing off stuff. It's not professional, but there you go.
You know what? That I know we don't know each other very well, but I'm going to argue with you on that one. Yeah, hey, just had heart surgery. I can't take your call. Yeah, no kidding. I'm glad you didn't. I would have felt very uncomfortable. And yeah, I hope you're on the mend. You sound well, so I hope you're doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. But I do bemoan the fact that I missed the show. But there'll be more. There definitely will be more, and hopefully soon. Well,
I welcome the opportunity to come back, and certainly to if it works out schedule wise, we'd love to have you at the show, and maybe we can chat more about music.
Absolutely, Phil. It's been a great pleasure, and I really hope that folks will take a moment to check out Influence, because I think they'll be touched, and they really will. Thank you, Phil.
Well, thanks for taking time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you. And take good care of your heart.
Thank you. Bye now.
There you have it, my chat with Philip Sayce. I do suggest you head over to Philip Sayce, SAYCE.com, and pick up your Influence bundles, which are available there. And of course, if you're in Canada during the summer, in the month of July, and he is in town, I certainly suggest you go check out one of his shows. And also, if you are out for a destination festival, head over to Heavy Montreal, August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau. Again, we've got Korn, Slipknot, Faith No More, Extreme doing their Porno Graffiti album in full, and many, many more. You can check that stuff out at heavymontreal.com. Thanks for listening, folks, and we'll catch you soon. Cheers.